after the shootings in El Paso and Dayton. And I told my colleagues, wait a minute, we don't know that 5G, we don't even have it here. We don't know that it causes cancer, let alone kill people. And here, the day after the horrific shootings in El Paso and Dayton, we're talking about a technology that we would be lost, eventually, because, there's scientific evidence on both sides saying it does, it doesn't, whatever. I said, what we ought to be talking about is this, or just not talk about it at all, because it's not within our purview as a local government. We're restricted as to what we can do as a local government. But my colleagues felt like it was important that we do this, and I said, okay, y'all need to understand that I feel very strongly on this other issue, and we're going to have a discussion on that. Unfortunately, I'm not going to have the votes to pass that resolution, so I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen. We have, an hour? When do y'all come back to having fun? Oh, come on. You're having fun now, aren't you? Every now and then now, when do y'all go back to class or take your, I'm sorry? Because I want to take some, I want to take some questions and leave enough time for, when you don't have a clock in here, it's sort of hard to sort of judge. Okay, I'm sorry? Okay, so I do want to take some, I'm just throwing out some things to give y'all, some thoughts. All of y'all live in at least some city, okay? And I'm going to use Clearwater for an example, and then you can, go from that. Tax, government's run because of taxes. I mean, that's where we get our revenue. And everybody gets upset. Who likes to pay taxes? Nobody does, But without them, we can't, we can't function. We can't build roads. We can't, provide water. We can't provide police protection. We can't provide fire, libraries, parks and rec programs, whatever. If you live in the city of Clearwater and your taxes are $3,000, and understand that the majority of Clearwater residents do not pay $3,000 for their taxes. But for round numbers, let's assume that that's the case. Who gets the most of that money? Does it all come to the city of Clearwater? Does it all? No, it goes to because remember, your tax bill comes from the county, and it covers the school board, it covers the county commission, and it covers the city of Clearwater, and then some other agencies like PSTA, the bus system, the Juvenile Welfare Board, the Southwest Florida Water Management District, and a couple of other small ones. But for our conversation, the school board gets half of that. So $1,500 is off the table. The county gets about 30% of that, and the city gets about 30%. So let's, again, just for round numbers, say it's 33%. And that $3,000 that the city of Clearwater gets is $1,000. Now, how many of you have these things? How many of you have internet TV at home, internet cable TV, computers at home? How many of you pay more than $100 a month for your cell phone, your internet, and your cable TV? Probably most of you. And I don't have to do the math. Y'all can do the math. You end up paying more for those services than you pay for the city of Clearwater to provide you parks and recs, provide you police protection, provide water, provide sewer, build roads, and everything else that the city does that you expect it to do. So I would like, and pay my salary. So I would like to think that we do a good job. Saying that, it reminds me of another thing. How many, again, going back to when I was working with the congressman, even now, I pay your salary. You have to do this. And I said, do you know what my salary is? As mayor, my salary is like $26,000. So how much of that $26,000 do you think your taxes go to my salary? I mean, if you have 100,000 people in the city of Clearwater, I mean, it's maybe a penny, maybe 2 pennies. So don't threaten your public officials with, if you don't vote this way, I'm never going to vote for you again. Because chances are you're going to agree with your elected official as much, if not more, than disagree with it. There will always be issues that we disagree on. But you want to have a conversation with them and be able to work with them. One year we had brought up to DC from St. Petersburg a group called Leadership St. Pete. There's a Leadership Pinellas in North County. And we had a meeting with Tip O'Neill. Now, Tip O'Neill at the time was the Speaker of the House of Representatives. He was a very liberal Democrat from Massachusetts. Congressman Young was, at the time, again, a relatively young congressman. We were in our second term. And a Republican and conservative and from down here. And Tip O'Neill came to lunch with this group and spent an hour visiting with us. And when the meeting was over, the group individually came up to me and said, why would Tip O'Neill do that? I mean, he's a liberal Democrat. And the congressman's a conservative Republican. I mean, they don't agree on anything. I says, no, they probably don't agree on anything. But they know that unless they work together, they can't get anything done. That sometimes I'm over here and you're over there. But again, the beauty of the Constitution is that we found a way to compromise. And quite frankly, they don't do that in Washington. We stake out a position and we're not going to move. And that's not good government. That's not what we're entitled to as citizens of this country. We can disagree, but we've got to agree that we have to work together to get things done, whether it's in government or whether it's in healthcare. I mean, the work that y'all do behind the scenes, if it wasn't done, the patient's chance of surviving isn't going to be very big. And so there's this teamwork effort that for some reason in Washington has just disappeared. And it's not good for any of us. And with that, why don't I take some questions? Because I know what's going to happen. You're going to ask a question, I'm not going to like it, and I'm going to start talking about something else, trying to answer your question, because that's what elected officials do. But I will take it and maybe expand. Although in my rule is that I would like you to ask one question so that we can try to get in as many as we can and not have you ask 2 or 3 questions at one time, if that's okay. Anybody want to go first? I mean, I would have more fun listening to y'all. You ask me a question than Mike continuing to talk. Oh, come on. Something's on your mind. Go ahead. Are you thinking of a question? Yeah, go ahead. Did you want to stand up and ask? No? Oh, jeez, okay. No, yes, sir. What? The question was on Scientology. Okay, yeah, first off, understand that the Church of Scientology is one of the largest taxpayers to the city of Clearwater. And you wonder, how is that? Okay. It's because certain aspects of what they have are not considered religious and doesn't qualify for the religious exemption. The classic example is the building that we're all familiar with if you're a native. The Fort Harrison Hotel is on the tax rolls. The people who stay in the Fort Harrison, because it's considered a hotel, pay the bed tax to the county like you would pay if you were to stay in a Holiday Inn or a Hyatt or a Hilton hotel. So it's a misconception that the Church of Scientology doesn't pay taxes in the city of Clearwater. They do. Okay. Now, that exemption that they have isn't granted by the city. It's granted by the federal government. Because the federal government, through the IRS, has ruled that the Church of Scientology is entitled to a religious exemption. So we have no control over that any more so than we would have control over my church that's up the road on US 19, other than the fact that if it's not used for religious purposes, it becomes taxable. Okay. Okay, the question pertains to Dunedin Causeway, and to be honest with you, no, I'm not doing anything because it doesn't come. Dunedin is a separate city. Okay, however, this is the kind of many years ago. See, I'm going to change the subject here a little bit. Okay. Many years ago, we had a discussion. How many of y'all used the Courtney Campbell Causeway? Okay. I was working with the congressman, and a state representative was named from the area, was called Betty Easley. And she wanted to widen the Courtney Campbell Causeway. And again, y'all probably don't remember this, but the Courtney Campbell Causeway used to have drawbridges. And get rid of the drawbridges. You're not old to remember that. Okay. Have drawbridges. And to widen the roads to make them just a little safer. Well, the federal government and the State Department of Environmental Protection said you can't do that. And Mrs. Easley called the congressman, and we called some people and said, well, why can't we do this? And they said, well, there's a little snail out there that we need to protect. And he said, yeah, but aren't lives also worth considering here? And they said, well, we'll come out and take a look at it. So we had the people from the Department of Environmental Protection in Tallahassee and some people from the Atlanta EPA come down. And we started walking in the shallow water of the Courtney Campbell Causeway. And we were only talking about taking 3 feet on each side, on each side to widen the road. And they determined that the slope of the sand was okay, so that if we took the 3 feet, that the snail wouldn't have a big drop off, and it was still a gradual slope. So that allowed for the expansion of the Courtney Campbell Causeway to make it a little wider and add some of the shoulder stuff there. Not too many people know that story. Okay. So the Dunedin Causeway is a similar situation. In all of our beach renourishment projects are. There's certain rules that come into play. And there are those who say that when you renourish a beach or build a causeway, it disrupts water flow, it disrupts marine life, and so all these things have to be considered and weighed. How many of y'all have gone out to St. Key Park in Clearwater? You know where the Sheraton Hotel is, you know, okay. Back in 1976, again, I mean, I'm talking a long time, the water came up to the seawall of the Sheraton Hotel. Now, people who stay at the hotel complain that they have so far to walk to get to the Gulf, and the hotel has to provide a little trolley service like it to get them. What had happened is that the city and the Corps of Engineers had agreed to build a jetty to help the flow of the sand go from going into the Clearwater Pass. And it, over the years, and with some beach renourishment projects, it has built up, you know, the beach there and the shoreline. And it's interesting because if you go to the St. Key Park, the sand there is entirely different than the sand that you see on Clearwater Beach. I mean, it's a night and day difference. And Clearwater Beach has never been renourished. There was a pass between Caladesi Island and Clearwater Beach at one time that was open and it closed up, and now it's still closed. How many of y'all are familiar with Indian Shores and Indian Rocks Beach? There used to be a pass there that got closed up by a hurricane, way before before I was probably in the early 1900s or 1920s. So in the area that's called the Narrows, right there, there used to be a pass there. So, you know, it's one of those things that sometimes it's bad, you know, it's going to get better, and then it's going to get bad again. But, you know, we just have to get adjusted to it. Yes, ma'am.
But our national mental health awareness is coming up October 10th.
Right.
And what is your position on that to make the community more aware of mental health? And not so much focus the OC's view.
No.
But we need to protect our citizens in the community, and we need to make people more aware instead of it being a stigma, so people can come out into the communities and discuss these things. What is your position on that?
The question for those in the back was regarding mental health and what are we doing, you know, as a city. You know, again, each level of government has a different role to play. Okay, the city role really is not in healthcare and in social service type programs. Okay, that's more the county, the state, and the federal government. Having said that, you know, I will tell you, it's embarrassing. And I don't care whether the subject is mental health or whatever is dear to each one of you, okay? Because we each have a passion for something, okay? The idea is that we learn about that from each other and share it so that you will have an understanding of what do we need to do to make sure that there's not a stigma attached to anything, you know? Again, let's go back to the Constitution. It provides what? That you as a citizen have certain rights. And the Declaration of Independence suggests that each one of us has a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It doesn't say that you have to be a white male, to have that, and only that's who is eligible. It applies to all of us. And it hurts each one of us. I get accused sometimes of being too emotional, but that's me. You can't. I was giving blood the other day, and I'm watching a TV series, and all of a sudden I'm crying. And the phlebotomist comes over to me and she says, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, why?" She says, "Well, I can see you've got some tears." I said, "Oh, I'm just watching a movie." And she got a handkerchief and dried my eyes. And she said, "Oh my gosh, you're a real person." And I said, "Well, aren't we all? No matter what ailment you might have." And I have a friend who's been blind since high school, who graduated from Duke Law School. So each one of us, and he was given an opportunity. And so we're hearing on the mental health issue that, we need to provide more money because that's going to solve the gun crisis and people aren't going to be killing people. I said, well, it's more than just that. But we've got to be aware. And again, that's where each one of us plays a role to make sure that the information is provided to elected officials and to provide it to friends and neighbors. Because a lot of times our friends and neighbors get jaded. Yes, sir.
So I've been trying to push I don't even know what to call it, a see something, say something button for the internet. So right now, if anybody here sees something on the internet, sees someone chatting about the shooting or whatever it is, they have no way to report it. None. It doesn't go to the FBI. It goes to the administrator of that site. So my idea is a see something, say something button. Or they see something on the internet, it goes to Homeland Security or it goes to the FBI. And I've been trying to push that with the Inspector General's office and other offices, and it's really important. So most of these shootings that have happened, they've cried out on the internet. And those cries could have been stopped if they would implement this idea.
The question in the back was see something, say something on the computer. I think we're getting there. I know we have anonymous tip lines that the sheriff's department has, that our police department has. A lot of times, unfortunately, we don't want to do that, as individuals. And hopefully the awareness issue will come up again so that, we each have a responsibility. When you're at the airport, if you see luggage around, make sure that you report it, to someone. And hopefully we will get more aware of that. The red flag law that we've been talking about is something, again, that will help us identify situations that might be of difficulty. But we do have that. It's just a matter of a lot of people don't like to access it for one reason or another. Yes, ma'am.
How do you feel about veteran services in the city of Clearwater?
The question was on veteran services in the city of Clearwater. And again, and I know this sounds like a cop-out, but we don't have any. Okay. The reason we don't is because that's not our charge. Our charge as a city is police, fire protection, parks and recreation, social services is the county responsibility. Okay. Having said that, how many? This is going to be a solicitation. Okay. We have in Clearwater something called the Florida Veterans Plaza. It's at Crest Lake Park at the corner of Gulf to Bay and just before you get to what we call 5 Points. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Crest Lake Park. And we have a Veterans Memorial there that we're trying to complete. How many of y'all are veterans? Yeah. Unfortunately, we've tended to drift away from caring for our veterans and recognizing the sacrifices that not only they made, but also their families made. And we need to do a better job in doing it. And again, y'all say, oh, what a cop-out, you know. Once a year, I write a column for a monthly newspaper, and once a year, around either Veterans Day or Memorial Day, I try to say, you know, hey, you need to pause and not only say thank you during this month, but really all year long to our veterans. Because what did I say when we first started, you know? The sacrifices that y'all made, it's not for us, or it wasn't for you, you know. It was there to defend this principle that we have as an American government. And the least that we can do is recognize them and give them thanks and their families. Congressman Bilirakis and Congressman Chris most recently have had some forums to, again, to try to raise that awareness, to talk about housing, to talk about health benefits, you know, for our veterans and our active duty personnel, and hopefully that will carry some more weight up in DC. I'm afraid that's about as best as I can answer on that. Any other questions? All right, let me talk about, how many of y'all are baseball fans? Not okay, not too many. All right, one baseball. All right, well, let me talk to y'all about this, because this is important to Pinellas County. Y'all are familiar with the Phillies and the Blue Jays. Okay, they have spring training here in Pinellas County. The Phillies have been in Pinellas County and in Clearwater since 1947. The Blue Jays have only been in Dunedin since they started as a baseball team. I'm wearing my Phillies tie not to tell you about that, but because earlier today we were at a program recognizing Roy Halladay, who was the Hall of Fame pitcher for the Phillies and the Blue Jays, who was killed in an airplane accident on an airplane that he was flying. And we had a monument unveiled for him at Jack Russell Stadium. But the importance of spring training to us can't be understated. And we're having I'll just lay it all out. The city of Clearwater is asking for $40 million from the county to make some improvements to Spectrum Field and the Carpenter Complex where the Phillies train. Now, that's a lot of money. Well, it's not for the fireworks, okay? Considering that the stadium is only 25 years old, and it looks brand new. Y'all, I'm sure some of y'all have been to Spectrum Field. But how many of y'all drive the same car that you drove 20 years ago? There's some improvements. I mean, I almost hesitate saying that because in my lifetime, I'm on my 5th car. If I don't put 200,000 miles on my car, I'm not ready to trade it in. And last year, somebody rear-ended me and put a dent in my back hood that was maybe 4 or 5 inches. And the insurance company came and totaled the car. And I said, total the car? Well, yeah, it's 20 years old. You got 195,000 miles on it. I said, yeah, I don't have 200 yet. And he said, well, you ain't gonna get it. And we're gonna take your car. I said, no, just give me a check. No, it's not, your car's not worth fixing. So they took it and sold it off, you know, and I had gone to a new car. But the point is, we need to make some improvements at the stadium for the Phillies to keep them here for another 25 years. Now, the city of Clearwater is the largest contributor of bed tax dollars to the county, and this is the bed tax dollar money that we're seeking over a 5 or 6 year period. And we made y'all been to the beach, y'all seen Beach Walk. That was a $32 million investment that the city made to improve the status of its beach. You know, we got some new hotels there. Hopefully you know, enjoy going to the beach now as you did when there were mom and pop hotels there. And we didn't ask for anybody's money. And when you see ads of the county promoting Pinellas and its beaches, what beach do you usually see? Clearwater Beach. So we think it's okay to ask for money to keep the Phillies here in town. Philadelphia and what's called the Delaware Valley area is one of the biggest contributors to visitors who come from there to Pinellas County to visit. When the Phillies come for spring training, this is something that I didn't know until I got on the council. They actually bring their entire management staff, from the chairman of the board down to Clearwater and Pinellas County for 6 weeks, all during spring training. They bring the ground crew, the ticket takers, and everybody who works at the stadium down for a weekend. They bring their big corporate sponsors down for a weekend, and they host them at our area hotels and have parties for them, but wine and dine them. But they do it all here in Pinellas County. Why are there so many Canadians who come to Pinellas County in the season? I mean, yes, this is a very nice area, but they heard about it not because it's a very nice area, but because the Blue Jays have been training in Dunedin for 35 years. If the Blue Jays were training in West Palm Beach, I would imagine that most of those Canadians would be in West Palm Beach or wherever they would be training. So it's important to us to realize that yes, it's a lot of money, but what's the return on your investment? What's the benefit to the area to keep the Phillies and the Blue Jays here for spring training? So I wanted to throw that out because somebody may have been wondering why I was wearing my Phillies tie, so that explains that. Another question? Yes. Oh, wait. That would be a second question. So hold
You can
on.
have mine.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
You can have mine.
Okay. All right. Somebody's yielding a question to you. The question pertained to red tide and what is the county or the city doing? And again, that is beyond our charge as a government. The state and the federal government is doing some research on that. The state has just approved some new money that goes to the University of South Florida and to the Moat Marine Lab to do some studies on that. What we need to understand, though, is that red tide is a natural phenomenon. It is in the Gulf of Mexico now. No, it doesn't come from farmers. Okay? It is a natural phenomenon that is in the deep waters, and there are occasions that stir it up that causes it to bloom and affect fish and the waters. It is not caught. You're thinking of the algae bloom that was in Lake Okeechobee. That was a different cause for that. So there is some research going. It's ongoing, but it's not something that what they found. Interestingly enough, I was at a program with Representative Christ, and what they found was that oysters and not scallops, but what's the other? Mussels. absorb the red tide bacteria and kill it. Scallops, if it gets into a scallop, it kills the scallop. But you can't have enough of them out in the Gulf to really do, to control it. So they're looking at other things to try to figure out how to do it. Fortunately, we don't get it all that often, and we were lucky here in Pinellas that it wasn't as bad here as it was in Southwest Florida.
Last question.
Last question. Okay. Well, thank you all for your attention. I appreciate being able to visit with you. Good luck in your studies. While I would love to see y'all at work, I hope I never do. Okay? And know that what you're going to be doing is going to be appreciated. Give your best every day. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, before you sit down, we wanted to present you with a plaque. Thank you so much for coming and gracing us with your presence and for your years of service. Thank you so much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I appreciate your time and your wonderful questions. And now I go back to class and keep learning. Thank you so much.